Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. Last week, we went through the events of Holy Week together, looking at what happened each day during the week before Jesus' crucifixion and death. I think it was helpful to sort of put things in order, to see the sweep of the week from beginning to end. But now we have come to Easter. And as I reflected on that and on how I have preached about Easter over the past 34 years, it seemed to me that while I have preached about the resurrection appearances of Jesus, they all just sort of get thrown in a pot together and come out as some kind of stew in our minds. And so I began to wonder if we might not benefit from doing with the Easter stories what we did with Holy Week. So that's the goal this week. My hope is to walk with you through something of the timeline of Jesus' resurrection appearances from Easter morning through his ascension. So today we began where it began, Easter morning, with a story you probably know well. It was early in the morning, and Mary Magdalene and some other women went to the tomb of Jesus, intending to anoint the body of Jesus with spices and oils. In those days, they didn't have modern embalming techniques, and so the spices and oils were the way they cared for the earthly remains of someone after their death. However, because Jesus died just before the Sabbath, there hadn't been time to prepare the body appropriately. And so on Sunday morning, first thing, the women went out to do it. Better late than never, I guess. In that day, too, the tombs were most often small caves, and once a body was in one, they rolled a large, heavy stone over the entrance to deter animals and to prevent the stench. And the women were worried about how they were going to move this stone and get at Jesus' body. But when they got there, the stone was already rolled away, and Mary Magdalene ran off to alert Peter and the others to the potential of grave robbers. The other women who were still at the tomb encountered angels who told them that Jesus had risen, and then they head off to find the disciples to tell them what they had seen and heard. Meanwhile, alerted by Mary Magdalene, Peter and John run to investigate and discover the empty tomb, while Mary Magdalene follows along behind. After Peter and John leave the tomb, Mary Magdalene stays behind and weeps. There she encountered someone whom she supposes is the gardener, and who is eventually revealed as the risen Jesus himself. Mary is then sent to tell Peter and all the rest. One of the more interesting things that goes on in this time period is that the chief priests had asked Pilate to station a guard to make the tomb secure. They were afraid of someone stealing the body of Jesus and then claiming that Jesus had risen as he had said he would. In the end, the priest bribed them to say exactly that, to discount the resurrection. Nevertheless, this is an important but often overlooked detail. You see, all this that happened with the guard proves, at the very least, that something unusual happened out there at the tomb. If Jesus hadn't risen, all the priests would have had to do to prove it that it didn't happen was to go out and point to the body and say, "See, there's been no resurrection." But they couldn't, because the body wasn't there. And the guards could testify that no one had come to steal the body. It was a busy morning with lots of coming and going. And pretty quickly, everyone was all astir and filled with questions and with doubts. What had happened? Who had Mary Magdalene seen in the garden? Was it possible? And perhaps the biggest question of all, what does this mean? Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.